Wall Street can bring down Main Street. And frankly, I'm going to tell you, it's a little scary.
In May, the Justice Department opened a criminal investigation to a secret Uber grayball tool. The tool was used allegedly to evade local regulatory authorities in cities like Portland.
You grew, and you did the deals, and basically it got too big for you.
Every board member knew exactly what our strategy was.
The documents reviewed by the subcommittee show that OTS knew all about Washington Mutual's high-risk lending strategy.
My name is George, and I am one of the people that broke business. Now, I don't claim to be personally responsible for the horror show that is big business, but I do need to take credit for the small part that I played in it. Now, I'm a business owner, and as business owners, we strive to get to a point where money becomes abundant. We strive to get to a point where we become a big business, but if that's any example of big business, then we're in big trouble, folks. Now, I wasn't always a business owner. I spent the first 10 or so years of my career in the medical industry, and I was pretty good at what I did. I had some shining moments, and because of that, I got more money. And that more money led to the desire to make even more money, which led to greed, which led to ego. And suddenly the bright young man that started working in the medical industry for the right reasons, he was unrecognizable. It's actually funny. There's a word that we use in the business world for people like I was back then. I was a shithead. The purpose of my job, which should have been about helping patients, was completely lost on me because making money and profit and bonuses, that became more important to me. And I wasn't the only one, as we saw in that video. In 2008, Lehman Brothers, one of the biggest investment bankers in the world, filed for bankruptcy to the tune of over $600 billion in assets. And why? Because they decided that it would be a good practice to hide risky investments that they were making from the public. And I would imagine that the majority of the public that wasn't involved in the business world said, wow, that's disgusting, and these people should be punished for it, but hey, this doesn't affect me, so whatever. And Lehman Brothers, I would imagine, said, oh, it doesn't affect you? Hold my beer. Boom, collapse of the US economy, the collapse of the US housing market, a ridiculous number of jobs lost. Why? Because of corporate greed. Now, my greed wasn't quite as spectacular as that, but it did have a profound effect on my life and the lives of everyone around me. So I'm going to fast forward past all the bad parts and get to the part where, towards the end of my reign as one of the worst people ever, where I met a young girl named Shannon. Shannon was a classmate of mine at the martial arts school that we both attended. And a couple of years after I met Shannon, unfortunately, she was diagnosed with rhabdoid cancer, which is a rare cancer that affects the central nervous system in children. And she was paralyzed, and she was unable to go to school, and she was broken. Now, I didn't know Shannon that well, I'll be honest, at the time. But something flipped inside of me that said, you need to get involved. Sure, she was part of my Kempo martial arts family, but it was something else, this voice inside of me that said, it's time. It's time to start helping other people. And so I listened to that voice, and along with the most incredible people that I know, we co-founded Shannon's Fight, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to financially aiding families in medical crisis. And I got to tell you, this was my first foray into the nonprofit world, and it felt very, very good. The work that I was doing every day, it changed my life, and it felt good. And I hadn't felt like that in my work in a long time. Now, it took a lot of bad decisions to get to a point where I was not a fan of myself, but it took one good decision to get here. And one decision led to me helping this girl in the fight of her life. One decision led me to meeting Shannon's family. And that one decision eventually led to falling in love with her sister and making them my family. Thank you. One decision can be so powerful. Now, a lot of good came out of this. And in between all these good decisions, life is life and life happens. And unfortunately, we lost Shannon. And I lost the person that changed my life, but I did not lose her message, which was be better. For me, it meant getting back to work the right way this time. And so I did. I used my experience to become a management consultant. And when I founded my company, it wasn't about money this time. It was about helping people And because I did this with pure intentions, it has been a joy to run this company every day since then. And I was finally starting to get it. And it was weird because now all of a sudden, I couldn't understand corporate greed anymore. I couldn't understand why so many people could be so greedy still, to the point where I started coming up with ideas where I could help with this. And that's when I had my Jerry Maguire moment. Now, I'm sure I'm dating myself with this movie, but all my 90s babies can remember. You remember the movie Jerry Maguire where Tom Cruise had a bad slice of pizza and a nightmare, and all of a sudden he grew a conscience, right? He woke up and he began to write what he called his mission statement, which he filled with ideas of why his industry had become so tainted and how the answer was less clients, less money, more caring. And so I was inspired to write my own mission statement. Because if we don't put our intentions out into the world, guys, then how can we be held accountable for our purpose in life? And so I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I couldn't stop writing. It was crazy. It was like I was injecting the antidote to all the poison that Club Shithead had put out into the world. And I filled 10 pages with life experience and lessons and ideals. And it got to the point where this mission spilled over into my work, where I was using nonprofit ideals when I was running my company, which is so weird because you can't run a for-profit company with nonprofit ideals, right? Or can you? And that was my answer. That's the answer I was looking for. We can be more than just for-profit. We can be not just for-profit. Successful businesses that are looking for more, but not more like to fill their pockets, more like to fill their souls. So here's my theory. The IRS gives businesses classifications as for-profit or nonprofit, right? What if the government played its part in ridding the world of corporate greed by injecting it with an equal amount of corporate good? What if it gave businesses classifications as not just for-profit? Let me put this into context for you. I researched 10 of the most gross examples of corporate greed that I could find out there. Now, these 10 companies defrauded, stole, or mismanaged a total of $792, wait for it, billion dollars. That's insane. Now, here's the perspective. In 2016, there were 7.4 million people unemployed in the United States, right? Let's say you started a hypothetical company. You took that $792 billion to fund it. You could give a job to every unemployed person in the entire country and pay them an average salary of $58,000 per year and sustain that company for 2 entire years using the money that 10 companies stole. That's insane. Imagine 100 companies. Now imagine bringing companies into the fold that actually care and are willing to donate their resources for a greater good. Now, how would this work? The Not Just for Profit movement, or NJ4P, as I call it, will be a matchmaker between for-profit companies and nonprofits. Now, successful businesses that are willing to donate their resources and possibly revenue to a greater good would be the for-profit partners. And vetted nonprofit organizations would undergo a needs assessment in order to help NJ4P match their needs with the resources of these businesses, right? But we're not going to stop there, because if we want to make this a global movement, we can't just pigeonhole this into businesses. So NJ4P will build a digital gig platform that will allow skilled individuals to post their pro bono services and make them available to a smaller nonprofit or cause. So photographers, accountants, plumbers, electricians, all giving back to a greater good. Now, the end goal would be to build a platform that is sustainable and that is changing the world. But the problem's in the word sustainable. You can't sustain this because you can't expect a for-profit business to keep giving and giving and giving, because they can't do that long term, and we need this long term. So here's the final part of NJ4P. When this program has legs under it, we begin to lobby the US government for policy change that will create a new IRS designation for successful businesses that are donating at least 20% of their annual revenue to this movement and call them not just for profit businesses that will put them in a non-conventional tax strategy and not only offset some of the cost of what they're donating, but to incentivize them to keep doing this, not just a one and done. If we want good, we have to put good out into this world, guys, plain and simple. Now, the question is this going to undo every bad thing that's been done? Is this going to take the executive that's been making bad decisions and force him or her to start making good decisions? No, of course not, but it's a start. It's a start, and if we could take one person and change their mind and force them to make a good decision, that's a start, and we have to start somewhere. So help me. Help me to undo the wrong that I've done, that you've done, that we have all done in this world. In order to undo so many bad things, we have to start by doing right, and we could start doing right today. It only takes one good decision to start a revolution, and I'm confident that a revolution is coming. Thank you.